Hello and welcome to another episode of Brand Retro. Today on the podcast, we have Josh Sullivan from Fried Design. Josh, how are you?
I'm good, Mike. Thanks for having me.
Yeah, appreciate you being on. And as we were talking here before we hit record, just overall, I mean, I follow brands like yours. I'm always seeing what other people are doing. And I've been following you guys for years. And I just love just the vibe and the overall just journey you guys have been on. Tell me a little bit about how you got started and how you crafted this kind of energy and this vibe for Fried.
Yeah, so we're about 6 years old. I started in the guest bedroom of our house. I had previously been the marketing director for Mother's Brewing Company for about 2 years. And before that, I'd been in advertising agencies for my entire career as a senior art director and art director before that, and graphic designer, a senior designer before that. So it's the classic agency thing. I'd worked previously a lot in B2B. So it was a lot of specifically like food service B2B. That was a lot of what I did. The agency that I worked for was about 150 people, got bought. And right around the time that they got bought, the last and longest agency that I was at, I decided to make a change and went to Mother's, which is a local brewery here where we live, and started working for them and really wanted to work in alcohol and stuff. And so I was like, oh, this is perfect. I can learn all about this business and maybe apply it later. And so I went and did that and it worked out great. And then I decided to start Fried in June of 2018. And so Mothers came on as my very first retainer client. And we just went from there. About, I guess, 6 months in, we hired our first intern, Brian, who is now an art director here at Fried, and we've just added on. So there's 7 of us here total now. And yeah, that's how we've gotten there. And then the vibe for everything has been, we just say we specialize in vice, which is it's really a very punk rock way to say that we do a lot of work in highly regulated industries. So anything where there's a lot of government oversight or red tape. So it's the TTB for alcohol, FDA for food. Cannabis has a different one for every state. So it might be the Department of Health and Human Services or whatever else. And so we do a lot of works in those industries. We do a lot of work outside of that as well, lifestyle brands and retail places and restaurants and bars and all that kind of stuff too. But that's the main kind of core of our business.
Yeah, I'm going to ask it because I'd love to hear your thoughts on it. How do those industries allow you the freedom to go nuts with some of these designs? Because as you could probably attest to, when you're designing for clients and designing for industry, sometimes there's a lot of confines and a lot of monkey see, monkey do kind of suggestion going on. And one of the things I see with your guys' work and agencies like yours is you guys are really, like you mentioned, the punk rock vibe. You guys are really stretching the limits of creativity and doing some very unique stuff, which I think fits very well in these industries that you mentioned. So that said, how does all that work? And did you go towards those industries for that reason?
Yeah, we definitely did. I mean, everybody here really insists on doing work that we love to do. That's our big mission, is to do work for stuff that we love, for people who we like, and have a good time doing it. And so, of course, like those industries draw a certain type of person in, which is great. But we really had the idea of being able to attack something that has a lot of confines and say, where can we push back on these? Where can we stretch the red tape, or where can we cut through it, or where can we circumvent it, or where can we get around it? And these different creative ways. And the real big difference with us is that we do it from a brand perspective. We're not a marketing agency. We're not an advertising agency. We will come up and make the assets and everything for somebody's ad campaign, but we're not going to place it. We're not going to do any of that stuff. And so all we do is focus on brand and making stuff look beautiful that people see themselves reflected in, and that connects and sells products, and so, or whatever it needs to. And so those industries are very attractive to us because of the type of people that we are, for one, and two, because whenever you have those kind of confines around something, it can make for some really interesting ways to flip an idea on its head, right? It can push you in very specific directions, or free up the creative process. It's one of those things that there's nothing scarier than looking at a blank piece of paper. But if you have to only use red ink and it has to be in a square, then you can say, okay, now you can have somewhere to start, or at least make a square. And so that's what attracted it to us.
Yeah, and as a designer, I don't know, I always liked and took it as a challenge. Like when you got a brand style guide or you got direction from the client, I would always take those things into consideration, but I would always explore the things they didn't mention. So any
Mhm.
loophole, any gap, or any place where they left me an opening to stretch the creativity and to try to do something outside of the box because they didn't you didn't mention it. I would always try to do stuff like that. And how much of that do you feel like plays into what you guys do?
Yeah, I mean, we go for the brands that we build, we go really hard onto in brand strategy. And so I came up in the agency world as an art director, and then the executive creative director that I had was like, okay, we're gonna amp this up a little bit. And I started doing a boatload of brand strategy work, and I've gotten really good at it. And so now for the clients that we work with or the clients that we decide to onboard, we've got a very kind of well-rounded process that we've put together for these clients. And so all of that strategy helps a lot to identify what the end result is going to be. So a lot of the time, by the time we get done with all the strategy stuff, like we all know how it's going to look, or at least some fashion of it. Now, if we don't do all of that strategy work, we have no idea how it's going to look, and we're just going to try and make something that we think is right and that's cool and beautiful. So whenever we have the opportunity to do something that the client is not expecting, that's great. But we want to make sure that it solves the problem in a very distinct and unique way.
Yeah, and how receptive are the clients to this blown out approach? Because from my own experience, I know the clients don't see it coming. So, like when you do the kind of work that you do and that we do and other brands like this do, when you take it that far, sometimes you blow their minds and sometimes you melt their brains. So, tell
Mhm.
me a little bit about how receptive are they to this out of the box thinking? And for some, maybe they know what's coming because they've looked at your work, but I'd
Yeah.
be curious to hear your thoughts on that.
We rarely have somebody that's like, whoa, like it's overload. By the time somebody's like in a room with us, they already know the show that they're about to get. But you don't go to a Guar show and think that you're just gonna sit and that you're just gonna sit in a chair in the middle. You know what I mean? Like you have a good understanding of what's about to come, and I think that is really great for us. I mean, that's how we like to do it. It's very much a rock and roll show. So we like to put on the show. We like to if we melt somebody's brain, that's a good thing. I think you got to have one of those every once in a while to where they're just like, oh man, I'm not even sure what all of that was. And you're like, yeah, you'll get it.
Yeah,
You just need a little time to marinate on it. So,
right.
but everybody here is also really adept at explaining and selling the work. So we never present anything that's not going to work at a fundamental level. And so whenever you explain it and show it and it has all of that, I guess, sound wave to it, then the math lines up to make a really good result.
So, talk to me a little bit about the Fried Design brand, because
Mhm.
obviously you guys do stuff for other people, clients, industries, whatnot. And I think similar to our approach, the Cyberdog's approach is we always wanted to build Cyberdog as its own brand. We wanted it to not just be an agency. We wanted it to be something that we could have fun with and develop products from and swag and whatnot. So, two questions is tell me a little bit about the Fried Design brand and where's the influence come from with I definitely think there's like a punk rock vibe to it, but I love the retro vibe too. I love the like the old school ashtray in the
Yeah.
shop. Like I know a lot of people don't smoke anymore, but it's still cool because it's just got a retro kind of flavor to it. So tell me a little bit
Yeah.
about that.
A lot of that comes from we have people here at the shop that are everywhere from like 41 to 25. And so that helps. It's not just like a ton of like super young people and it's not a bunch of like super old people. And so that helps. The other side is we have so much fun as a group, like internally, like in our office and on our Slack channels and happy hours and doing whatever else dumb shit we're gonna go do. I'm sorry, I didn't mean to curse on your podcast. You can beep it.
Not the first time.
Yeah, whenever I'm on a podcast, it should come like a warning of. But we have so much fun internally, like that we keep just a running list of dumb ideas that we're like, oh, this would be cool, that would be cool, that would be cool. And one of the things like we say internally all the time is like print the shirts. So if somebody says something funny or has a good idea, we'll print the shirts and it goes on a running tallied list of all these things that we want to create. So we did, like you said, we did old vintage ashtrays that were FDC branded. We did bandanas that are double as Ouija boards. We've done matchbooks and just all the run of the gamut of stuff of just weird things to make, because why not? And we're very lucky to have a very engaged group of other designers who are fans. And so it's not like we sell a ton of stuff to like random people. It's generally like the designer crew who buys our stuff, but that's a big group of people
Right.
and we're a little company, so it works
Right.
great.
But correct me if I'm wrong. It's not about the stuff. It's about that story, that journey, that
Mhm.
camaraderie, and yeah. I
Yeah.
mean, that's what I think is really cool about brands like yours, Lincoln. What we're trying to do at Cyberdogs is the using your own brand as a way to build team and to stretch creativity and just have fun with it. And because I get asked the same types of questions about t-shirts, hats, whatever, and I don't really do it for that. It's not.
Mhm.
I mean, if we can turn a buck or come out flat, that's all I really care about, because it's more about outfitting the team and really letting everybody contribute to it so that they feel like the brand is theirs as well.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, that's every piece of merch. We just actually did a huge merch order and had a bunch of new stuff come in that we're speaking at a conference and down in Texas at the end of the month. And so we'll be vending at that. And so we're like, all right, let's release all new merch for this thing. And so we just have a huge thing, but every single piece is designed by a different person. And so, or some of them are like collaborative pieces, and some of them are just single designs, and it's all over the place. And so that's super fun to be able to do that kind of stuff. And everybody feels involved and everybody gets to, like, everybody here, I think today, except for me, is wearing something fried. Oh, I had my hat on earlier,
Yeah.
but like, that's just how it goes. And everybody that works here sees themselves reflected in the brand. And I mean, I don't think anybody defines themselves as much, but I'm one of those people who like really defines myself by the work I do. Like, people always say that's a really bad thing. And I'm like, your job must not be that cool then. But
Yep.
my job's awesome and my family's awesome. And those are really the only two things that I care about. And so I don't know that anybody here sees themselves as reflected in it perhaps as much as I do. I hope that they do, but you definitely get the feeling that they do a lot of the time. And that's all you can ask for as a business owner.
Yeah, it's really cool. It's great you say that, and it's validating to a degree, because I'm very similar in the fact that like I eat, sleep, and shit my own brand all day, every day. And it's important to me because obviously it's everything I do on a daily basis. But I think being that connected to it gives you, I don't know, it's just part of you. I've worked the jobs and been in the agency world, and I don't know, when it feels like a job, there's just a disconnect there. And when it
Yeah.
feels like a lifestyle, it's something you're just entrenched in. And then there's no boundaries, because it's what can we do next and how could we stretch that? And I think what you're doing as far as bringing the team into it is really cool, and it's going to pay you dividends down the road and create for a lot of good buy-in and loyal brand lovers as well.
Yeah, I mean, I hope so. That's the plan. I mean, the cool thing about Fried is like whenever it started, it was very much just me making stuff, right? And now it is very much a reflection of all of the different people that are here. And so it's not a reflection of me anymore, it's a reflection of us. And so that makes it even more exciting for me because you don't feel like you're on an island. And that's a lot of fun. And people seem to like it, and I'm glad that they do. And we've had zero turnover here. Nobody's ever left. So as long as we can keep that going, we'll be a-okay.
Yeah. And you guys are based out of Missouri, correct?
We're based in Springfield, Missouri. There's
Okay.
5 of us in office here, and then there's 2 remote. So one in Philadelphia, or right outside Philadelphia, and one right outside Sao Paulo, Brazil.
Oh, wow. Okay. So how does that play into your kind of growth plan? Are you just taking it as it comes, or you have an aggressive, here's where I want to be in 10 years, or what does that look like?
No, we don't do that. It's truly like about the work for us. Like people, like I don't, like we have a budget, and like we all get together in a room, and I'm like, hey, this is how much money we need to make this month. This is how much money we need to make this year. This is what bonus pool looks like. We do all that kind of stuff. We have plans of things that we would like to do, but we'll never grow past 10 people. Like I put my flag in the sand about that. It's just not the type of business that I want to have. And whenever you get past that point, in my previous experience, the wheels start shaking on things like culture, the work and communication and interpersonal stuff and all that other kind of stuff. And so we're very deliberate about who we hire here. This last round of hiring that we did had just over 1,200 applications. And so for a design position. And so the guy that we ended up hiring drove here 8.5 hours from Huntsville, Alabama to hand deliver his resume and like a bunch of other stuff. And we're like, and it turns out that he ended up being a really good fit culturally. And of course the work speaks for itself. And so we're very intentional on who we bring on, when we bring on, why we bring them on, and culture and that style of working together. That's the most important thing that we can protect. And so if a client gets in the way of that, the client's gone. Like it's just the most important thing to us. We don't have we want to make half a bajillion dollars. We want to do good work for people that we like. And hopefully those people pay us more and more over time.
Yeah, very similar. And I think an approach that's worth talking about is just it doesn't define you and it doesn't drive you. The money, all the financial entrepreneurial things that a person has to deal with as a business owner is a byproduct of, but it's driven by the fun, the creativity, the teamwork, like those kinds of things, correct?
Yeah, I mean, I don't get me wrong. I love the whole entrepreneurial hustle deal. I'm such a subscriber to all that bullshit. I just can't help myself. But so I have this business. I have other businesses too, and so this is my baby. I'm here all day, every day. The other ones don't need it, don't need me, except just a little bit here and there. And so I very much believe and subscribe to all of that. But I feel like if you do the best you can and you try as hard as you can and you can put your head down on your pillow at the end of the night and you can go to sleep and not have to worry about, did you treat people the right way? Or did you try as hard as you could? Or is the work as good as it could be? Then the money comes, to be honest with you. At least that's been my experience.
Yeah, it really does just take care of itself. I mean, I know that's hard for people out there grinding and hustling. I know that's hard for them to believe, but it does figure itself out.
I just had a conversation with somebody about this yesterday, who is an old agency head. It was like, you have to grind it out for years before like you get to do something like we get to do. And it just is that way. I wish it wasn't, but it just is. If you want to do the type of work that we do for the people that we do and charge as much as we do, that's great. You just need to put in your 10,000 hours to be the best that you can, and then surround yourself with people who could do it better than you. And so, that's the method.
I have a very simple analogy I use for people to help them get that is that, you have to be known for a home run hitter before you can go get that big payday, which means if you're in the league for 10 years, you better rack up some home runs. And then maybe on year 11, you get that $15-20 million a year kind of thing. Not that we're getting paid that, but basically you have to build up that reputation.
Listen, brother, you pay me $15-20 million a year. I'll sell you this business and all the other ones that I got.
Yeah. But it's so true though, that like, you just have to put your time in and you gotta,
you do.
And maybe this is my last question for you is you have to find your style too. Like that's one thing that's very hard as a young graphic artist and a young creative. How do you develop that style or something that's unique to you that you can do something with? Because on the onset, like when you start working for somebody else and working with tons of different brands and different industries and you're a ping pong ball, you're all over the place. Not that you're not doing good work, but you're not really getting to exercise your creativity in the same way. So that said, what are your thoughts on that, on defining a style?
It's a tough one for me, to be honest with you, because there's parts of this business that I think are really important to specialize in. And there's other parts of this business where I don't want somebody to specialize in it. And so like, I get really frustrated when people are like, oh, that doesn't seem like a client that would be a good fit for you guys. Because say it's a bank or say it's a industrial refrigeration company. We have a client that's an industrial refrigeration company, and it's like it's one of our favorite clients. They're incredible. They let us do whatever we want, and it's such fun work to do, and it's so cool. And we can do that, right? Just because it's a Like if you need it to be clean and modern, we can make it clean and modern. If you need it to be old and vintage, we can do that. If you need it to be graffiti style, we can do that. We could do anything. It's just
Right.
we have an innate style for us that we like, but it doesn't mean that we can't solve the problem in a million different ways, because we can. And so if somebody else gets if some super cleaned up agency gets the bid or wins the RFP for whatever super tidied up project, then that's great for them. But I'm always like, there's a little part of me that's always, we could have done that better. You know? And so it's just who we are. We're all so competitive under this roof that like we like working on certain types of stuff, but that's not all we do, because if that's all we did, we wouldn't make any money, to be honest with you.
I completely agree. I think you find yourself in these natural funnels or niches sometimes because you get referrals and whatnot. But I agree. I mean, whenever I'm challenged from a client as to, have you ever done a bank before? No, but it doesn't matter, because
Yeah.
how we get there and the steps that we take to generate whatever that solution is, it really doesn't matter. I mean,
It doesn't matter to us at all. The big thing is matters to us is this person that we're sitting in the room with a good hang?
right.
Because if they're a bad hang, we're out. That's a hard no for us, is because the whole thing is based around fun. Dude, this job is so cool. Like how lucky we are to do this job. Like I get to come to work every day. I'm psyched it's Monday, right? Like the weekends drive me crazy. And so I can only go on so many walks with my kids or play so many games of basketball before I'm like, I want to go back and to work. And so that's a very privileged and lucky position to be in. And so it's very important for us that we keep it fun all the time, and that we keep it exciting. And so if we get somebody in here that's a real wet blanket, then it's not a good fit for us, no matter the industry.
Totally agree. And with that, Josh, I just want to thank you again for being on the podcast, and it's great chatting with you. And I'm super pumped about the future and everything you guys are doing at Fried.
Hey man, thanks so much. Appreciate it, Mike.
If you'd like to learn more about CyberDogs, share your thoughts, or even ask a specific question about this episode and or the brand Retro Mindset, contact me directly at mike@cyberdogsmarketing.com.